What's going on, guys? Winner Kills here, and welcome back to another rendition of the series where we talk about a card that is either banned, limited, something that's been on the ban list for a long time, or sort of controversial card. And we're going to talk about, what would happen if it were to come back to 3, if it were to come back at all. But today, we're going to be talking about none other. And I figured since I'm a Mermail player, and a lot of you guys probably are as well, at least for the most part, it seems to be like the most popular type of deck that we cover on this channel. But we're going to be talking about Deep Sea Diva. This card has been at 1 since, I believe, August of 2013. So it's been well over 5 years at this point that this card has been at 1. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, guys, Imperium Duelist. All the links to that down in the description. Go and join Discord if you haven't already. So we'll go ahead and get started. Sort of help keep a structure to these types of videos in the future, I want to go ahead and talk about Deep Sea Diva in the past, and sort of how this card came to be the infamous card that it is known to be, and sort of how it got to the place where it's at. Right now, we're in the current ban list here in December of 2018, where it is still currently 1, like I said. I've been doing a lot of research on YouTube, just trying to get some information on this card's history, how it was mainly used in the early days of Atlantean decks and Mermail Atlantean decks, before Abyss Rising even came out. And trying to figure out the exact date and ban list that this card got hit. And what I found, it was in August, late August of 2013, which seemed to be a huge ban list. And not surprised to see Deep Sea Diva joining a lot of those cards on that ban list. Some Dragon Ruler stuff, some Spellbook stuff as well. I believe that is the same list that Spellbook of Judgment was banned too. The main things that I found Deep Sea Diva end up being able to enable was a lot of easy OTKs, and for right now, we'll just keep this sort of strictly to the formats back then and how everything was. Obviously, 5 years ago, the game was very, very slow. I was watching a lot of older replays, some older deck profiles to see what the main combos were, what people were coming up with combos, and some old dueling network videos I saw people performing these Deep Sea Diva OTKs. And a lot of the times the OTKs that this card would be able to pull off would be just sort of normal summoning it after, per se, summoning a Megalo by discarding Dragoons and another card, perhaps an Infantry or Marksman, clearing something that are on their side of the field, using that Dragoons to search out Deep Sea Diva. And Deep Sea Diva then would summon Atlantean Marksman of all cards. Obviously, they didn't have Neptibus back then like we do now, but they would be summoning cards like, your Marksman. Sometimes they might go for Infantry as well for other reasons if they had cards like Gen-X Ally Birdman to combo along with it. And I'll go over that combo in a second. But then after you summon out that Marksman, Megalo would then tribute the Diva, and then you would swing in with Megalo or whatever, possibly attack directly since you did clear something potentially with an Infantry or whatever. And then you'd swing for damage, obviously. Then Marksman would activate his effect, which is an effect we don't really use that often nowadays as Mermail players. And then you'd summon out Dragoons to swing in for an extra damage. That 24, 24, 14, and 18, I believe, is all that damage. It would usually end up being game. And Heavy Storm was legal back then as well, so having to play into 5 back row against some other stun decks really wasn't too big of an issue, because a lot of times you could just play that Heavy Storm and then proceed to summon your Diva or your Megalo and go about OTKing that way. So back then, with the game as slow as it was, that play was pretty potent because it required very little cards. Hand traps were not nearly as prevalent as they are now. We didn't have Ogre, we didn't have Ash, we didn't have Impermanence, all these things. We had Valor, I'm pretty sure, Maxi, I think, I'm not entirely sure, but again, nothing like it is today. And the other combo I would believe would be you would normal your Diva, and then Diva would tutor out your Infantry, which, as we all know, gives you an extra normal summon of a level 4 lower Sea Serpent the turn that it is on the field, and you can only gain that effects once, sort of similar to Nightmare Goblin. This card was a little bit better back then than Goblin was now, I should say, in some aspects, not all, of course. But then you use Gen X ally Birdman, which at the time was also at 3, and as we now know, he is currently at 1, and again has been at 1 since, I believe, that August 2013 ban list as well. And of course, you would use Birdman to return the Diva to your hand, and then you could normal summon your Diva again because you had that infantry on board, and that could allow for some crazy synchro plays. Duloran, Gungnir, Rhinac, which I don't think was legal then. Trish, I'm not sure if that was legal either. And synchro support, keep in mind, then was not the greatest. I believe that there was a lot of good synchro support on the way in late 2013. So pretty potent on the point of damage dealing, and obviously with Gen X ally Birdman being very powerful. So with all that being said, there was just a lot of damage that could be generated from it, and a lot of removal generated from it as well, because Gungnir, of course, was a card that a lot of players were playing, some playing at 2 in their extra deck, just be able to discard cards, perhaps get their effects, because Gungnir is a water, triggering cards like Infantry, Marksman, and Dragoons, and just putting on a lot of damage to these small combos that didn't amount to huge fields, but just in most cases led to a lot of damage in similar styles and different variations of that same combo, and just winning via OTK. Nothing super extravagant by today's standards. In fact, it was very, very slow back then. Sometimes you would have to, normal Undying Sun Dragoons to add Diva, and that was pretty much your play. You would pass turn, and then hopefully next turn your Diva would go through where you could pull off said OTK. Of course, doesn't hold a candle to any of the FTKs we've seen today. You look at a card like Topological Gumblar Dragon and the FTKs we've seen with Cannon Soldier and Grapha in the past. Thankfully that's gone, but it really doesn't seem that bad. It's just a standard deck that can put on a lot of damage and OTK you very, very easily. It was pretty consistent though, as well as you might imagine, because Diva was at 3 and Birdman was at 3. And cards like Heavy Storm were legal, and some other weird cards that were still legal. So these plays could be initiated by some of these very, very, very powerful cards which are still currently banned to this day. So overall, that is pretty much the main backstory of Deep Sea Diva and some of the things that I found. Perhaps there are some things that I missed, but just really access basically is what Deep Sea Diva offered to was access to easy OTKs and just some basic synchro plays, which at that time were just very, very powerful. Nowadays, we have to look at the fact that we have cards like Neptibus. Dragoons is still at 3. We do have powerful synchro monsters still. Trishula is in the game. Moulin Glacia is still a card. And we also have to look at the fact that links are a thing as well, which obviously they did not have back then. So the sort of spam effect that Deep Sea Diva could offer, getting all these extra monsters on board, could be used for heavy link summoning plays, which, as we know, aren't always a bad thing, and they can end in some pretty awesome fields. Now we're going to talk about, with the current card pool, what this card could actually be capable of, and just how powerful it could actually be, and then we'll head to our conclusion. Now, the main factor as we move into the section of the video where we talk about basically what this card would be capable of, enabling in this current format when talking about Deep Sea Diva. The main thing we have to look at, in my opinion, as somebody I would say is an experienced Mermail player, been playing the deck for a couple of years, never got to play the deck, obviously, when Diva was at 3. I didn't think I was actually playing the game at that point in 2012 and 2013. Maybe some of you were watching this video, and you can reminisce on the thought of maybe what it would be like to have Neptibus back then when that card was at 3, and it would have been pretty insane, I imagine. Probably a very, very powerful deck, even though it was probably one of the best decks at the point, based on how easily you could OTK. Would have been much better with a card like Neptibus, because having a card to summon off Diva like Neptibus would have just been way better than going for any infantry or marksman sort of silly OTK. Now, of course, talking about Neptibus, we all know what Neptibus does. send an Atlantean to add an Atlantean, and of course it is a level 3 or lower Sea Serpent, and of course a target to be summoned off of Deep Sea Diva. And I never really took into account the fact to realize, because it has been at 1 for such a long time, and I've only ever known it at 1 as a Mermail player, Deep Sea Diva is not a hard once per turn. You can use it as many times as your heart desires, or as you are able to get it on the field. And of course, one interesting thing that I found was the fact that you could, you know, bounce it back with Gen X Ally Birdman, and just, you know, summon it again and make another synchro play. That kind of actually makes me want to play it in my current build, because I'm trying to make my build more synchro heavy as Savage Strike approaches in the TCG. But that is sort of besides the point. So we know that Diva at this point, if it were to come to 3, its main target of summoning would just be Neptibus. Of course, sending in a Dragoons, most likely to add a Dragoons and a Megalo to, of course, enable more plays. Now, the main red flag in the current ban list that we are here in December of 2018 is the fact that we still have Topological Gumblar Dragon legal, and a lot of combos that involve hand loops with Mermail currently thrive off Neptibus plays, especially with Teus, or Megalo, depending on how the rest of your hand works. Now, if Diva goes to 3, obviously it's like having 6 copies of Neptibus, 7 if you count 1 for 1, which currently is still at 1 as well. And I think it should probably stay at 1 for the time being. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future video. But of course, the main thing we have to look at is the fact that Gumblar and a lot of these extra link combos and hand loops are enabled in this specific deck, Mermail, by cards like Neptibus and Teus and Megalo and a lot of Dragoon searches and things like that. And of course, bringing Diva to 3 currently in this day, if it were to come to 3 right now, just like that, that's probably what we'd see is an increase in consistency of this degenerate hand loop Mermail variant. Now, which in the current state of the game, we all know we all want Gumblar just to vanish from existence, because it's not only Mermail that can abuse it, it's plenty of other decks, especially with the new Neo Space card coming out in the near future, which will be a huge headache. And in fact, I believe it already is out currently as I'm making this video. But it just could make this FTK, and it would make this FTK a lot more consistent. And that is the biggest red flag. But just for the sake of being realistic, I would hope that Konami would be smart enough in the future to ban Topological Gumblar Dragon, or Topologic Gumblar Dragon, because it is one of those cards that just enables degenerate FTKs, much like we saw Firewall Dragon do. And I would hope it would follow that same path of getting banned. And if it did get banned, then Mermail is sort of left in a state where everybody who bandwagoned to the deck to play it with Firewall because of the extra link plays, and everybody who bandwagoned it to the deck now or is still playing it because of the Gumblar plays, you know, the deck would lose that facet of its playstyle, where it could be this going first deck that for most of existence, it was this go second OTK, you know, all in, putting so much damage on board type of deck, and has sort of changed because of a lot of these links that we see, Firewall and Gumblar Dragon mainly being those types of link monsters. But with that card being gone, I think with 3 Diva, the deck does have to evolve into a going second build. Perhaps there'd still be some extra links you could pull off with the deck. But with Firewall being banned at this point, and let's say Gumblar being banned and Goblin being banned, the extra link is just really mediocre. You have like Proxy Dragons, maybe a Cerberus and a Phoenix, and like 2 Mermaids, or a Link Karibo and a Mermaid. With real, like, it's just not the extra link we all know to be very potent like it was back in the day with, you know, Trigate, Cerberus, Phoenix, Unicorn, Goblin, Mermaid, all this crazy stuff. It just wouldn't be that difficult to out with this current meta. And I think another thing you have to think about is obviously, when I think Deep Sea Diva, I think synchro plays. I think insane synchro plays. And I thought originally that was why it got banned. And pardon me if I am missing anything. But a lot of the combos I saw with Deep Sea Diva never really involved too many synchro plays. Again, it was more so tutoring cards out to OTK with Megalo. Mainly just infantry to maybe abuse with Birdman, to normal again to get marksman, and use that to tutor out Dragoons to deal more damage. But the main thing I think about personally is not link plays. I don't think about that. I think about synchro plays. And with our current card pool, we have Trish at 1, DeLorean is still at 1, Bryanak is at 1, but it does have an errata. I think Bryanak is at 1. It might be at 3. I'm not entirely sure. But it has an errata, so it's not nearly the same card it was back then. And Trish is not nearly as impactful as it once was, and I think we all know that. I think Trish was actually a card that was emergency banned at one point because of there was some loops with it. I'm not entirely sure exactly what the deal with that was, but that's believe how it ended up going to 1 in sometime around 2013, and it did come back around 2015. I remember that was a really cool time to see Trish come back because I was actually playing at that point. But currently, with it just still being a normal summon in most cases, going for Neptibus, allowing just for easy access to Dragoons. And I guess another thing you could keep in mind is the fact that you could go Diva into Marksman, and if you had another Diva in hand, you could normal that Diva, use another effect to summon out an infantry or a Marksman or a Dragoons, and that's I guess that's easy access to a high level synchro right there. But again, it doesn't seem like right now that's anything game breaking. It just seems like, oh, the deck now has easier access to Neptibus and a little easier access to tuners. And before I go on to the next topic, which I think a lot of you are all thinking about, it's a card that Diva could be abused with, and it is a Link 2 monster that we don't currently have yet as the time I'm making this video. And it is a water, keenly enough. Hand traps back in the day were pretty much non-existent. I shouldn't say that. They were very much existing. We had Maxine Valor, I'm pretty sure, at the time, and Droll and Lock Bird. But Ash Blossom, Infinite Impermanence, Ghost Ogre, all of these things sort of play into an effect to hinder Deep Sea Diva's performance. Really powerful hand traps that pretty much run the game currently, and we also take into account the cards like Called by the Grave too, which could be a very easy counter to a card like Deep Sea Diva. I mean, every time I summon Deep Sea Diva, it always seems to get impermanenced or ashed or valored, and the card pretty much never goes through. It pretty much has a target on it instead of its actual artwork saying, hey, hand trap me, and my turn pretty much is over at that point. But, you know, Striker, Thunder Dragon, and whatever deck sort of comes down the line from here, I feel like Deep Sea Diva doesn't scare those decks too much, especially, again, Widow Anchor, Colossus, stopping Neptibus from being too potent at all, pretty much. Titan, Widow Anchor, Impermanence, Ash, again, all these things. But Needle Fiber, yes, there it is. Needle Fiber is a card that could be, you know, a very good thing for a card like Diva if it did come back to 3. And who knows, it might when Needle Fiber is released in Savage Strike, because we are supposed to get a ban list on sometime after January 21st. I'm not sure Savage Strike's exact release date, but I think it is early February. So maybe they bring Diva back in honor of all the synchro support that's coming out. I doubt it though, but you know, that is a card that I think of as well, especially with Diva being a tuner, it being able to summon out a tuner from deck. But I believe its effects are negated. Not that really would play too big of a deal. Needle Fiber could obviously summon out a Deep Sea Diva using a Deep Sea Diva, but again, at the end of the day, with all the other options people are playing with Needle Fiber, like Steam the Cloak, that Mecha Phantom Beast card, perhaps Glow Up Bulb, and all those plays like that. I feel like Deep Sea Diva is a very subpar card to summon off Needle Fiber. Its effects are negated, it doesn't have any sort of graveyard usage, and it doesn't really help you link climb and link spam like a lot of these other cards would help you do. So I don't really see Deep Sea Diva being a dangerous card with Needle Fiber. Mainly just sort of a gimmicky play that you could technically pull off. I think if Diva were to come back, Mermails would be in the position to be basically still sort of saying, hey, please don't hit my Diva, please, please, please don't, or my turn still pretty much stops. Unless you happen to open a card like Neptibus and Infantry and a second copy of Diva, then I guess you can summon, and then you need Megalo in hand, so you need a pretty much perfect hand consisting of 2 Diva, a Neptibus, an Infantry, and a card probably like Dragoons, because you'd summon the Diva, they would negate it, and then you would summon Megalo, discarding the Prince and the Infantry, Prince summoning Infantry, Infantry letting you normal again, you normal Diva, Diva activates again, and then you summon Prince, and then you use Prince. But then again, it's sort of, you're still at the same sort of, and you had to use so many cards to get to that point. You're in the same position you're here in 2018 with Diva being at 1. You get your Neptibus out, you send your Dragoons, you add your Dragoons, and right now that really isn't causing too much of a problem where people would be complaining about it. Alright, so here we are in the concluding section of this video on what would happen if Deep Sea Diva were to come back to sort of 2 or 3. Honestly, in my head, with it just being Deep Sea Diva, part of me thinks, and how powerful it is, it would just be bad because it's a good card. But I just can't think of anything off the top of my head that would make it overly busted. Now listen, I'm not trying to make a case for this card to come back just because I'm a Mermail player. If Deep Sea Diva stays at 1 for another 2 years, 3 years, I'm not really going to care that much. I just think I wanted to beg the question, so to speak, and I just can't really figure anything in the top of my head that makes it seem like, oh, no, this card cannot come back. Like, it can't come back. Like, if I were to talk about Norden, I could easily be like, no, this card can't come back. We have cards like Azathoth. We have, you know, we still have Innocent Fusion. We have Exciton now, and 1 card rank 4s are still really good, and Fusion sub is still legal, and Link spam because you just bring something back, and Fusion substitute, and review. Like, it's just, I get why that, like that has solid evidence. Lacking the evidence here. And with Gumlar being illegal still, I would say it probably shouldn't come back for the sake of just making this hand loop build more, you know, consistent, and which I think would be a bad thing. This hand loop should not exist. But with Gumlar being banned, and I hope it will get banned, and I think it should get banned, and it just should get banned. I think Deep Sea Diva can definitely come back to 2 or 3, and that's my opinion. I'm not saying this is fact. I don't make up the ban lists. I don't know every card in the game. And of course, you guys are welcome to leave your opinions down in the comment section below. Feel free to. I welcome that. If you want to sort of, you know, relive any memories of Diva at 3 if you played the deck back then, or if you have any sort of suggestions, anything that I missed, because again, I'm only human. I'm not a robotic database of every possible combo, because that would just it would just take way too long to assemble this video together than I would care to make it. But anyways, again, I just wanted to beg the question sort of to you guys, especially with Mermail being as popular as it is on this channel. Again, as I've said before, I figured we'd talk about Deep Sea Diva. That's it for me. So I hope you guys enjoy. Like I said, check out our sponsor Imperium Duelist in the description, and check out the links to my Discord and my Twitch stream and all the social medias down below if you're interested in that. And I highly recommend you toss a follow on those websites as well. It'd be greatly appreciated. As always, guys, WinnerKill signing out. We'll see you in the next one.